Thank you. And let me go ahead and start with my first question that I ask everybody. Day one, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Auburn, Washington, a little town between Seattle and Tacoma.
And what was it like there growing up?
Oh, it's a small town. There's probably only 20,000 people when I was growing up. About double that now, but nice little area, a nice community.
And what was your household like? I mean, were you guys a close family, or were you guys a dysfunctional type family?
No, we were. My mom raised us. I got two brothers and three sisters. She was a single parent, and we're a pretty tight family. I mean, we're still tight. My mom just passed away, so we all try to stay together and look out for each other.
And what were you like as a kid growing up? Were you quiet? Were you shy? Were you talkative?
I was in trouble all the time, so I was a rowdy little thing. I got in trouble, and not any serious trouble, but I was out running around, and my mom was not always there to watch us. So I got in a little trouble in my day.
What type of student were you in school? Were you a good student?
Nah, not really. I was wasn't as good a student as I wish I should have been. I didn't take it as serious as I should have, but I was a class clown. And, when I quit school in 11th grade to go to work, help my mom out, I was struggling to make ends meet, and so I ended up quitting school and going to work and pouring concrete, and helping my mom out, so yeah.
And how did boxing find you, or how did you find boxing?
Well, I was a 5-year-old kid that, went in and got my head shaved every Saturday, whether I needed it or not, because my dad was a Marine, and at the time that he was still in my life, he'd take me every Saturday to get my head shaved, and the guy that was the barber was starting a boxing club, and asked my dad, and my dad, being tired of me coming home crying all the time from getting beat up, I had a bigger kid, said, yeah, he'd like to do that, so, I took it up, and I liked it right away, and I was pretty good at it, so, when I was 5 years old, but yeah, I liked it, right away, and, it was one-on-one, and, you match your skill against theirs, and, I was pretty good at it, so
Would you say you were a natural at it, or did you have to kind of work at it to get good?
Well, no, I wouldn't say I was a natural at it. I was pretty good at it to start, but, it took a lot of hours and a lot of work, refining my skills, and, I don't know that anybody's really a natural at it. It's something that takes a lot of hard work and dedication and, time. So, but I was pretty good as an amateur. Fought a lot of good fighters. I come from the Seattle area, and, we had, some good fighters come out of this area. We had Ray Seals, and Leo Randolph, Rocky Lockridge, Johnny Bumpus, guys like that, that were pretty good fighters that, ended up going to the Olympics and getting gold medals and, going on to win world titles too. So, yeah, we had some good fighters in the area.
What was your amateur career like?
So I probably had about 350 amateur fights and lost about 25 of them. Yeah, this was back in the day when, you'd fight 3 or 4 times on Saturday to get to Sunday. Now they only let you fight once every 24 hours. So, I would, fight 3 or 4 times to get to the finals. And, so, you could rack up a lot of fights and, I enjoy it.
And do you think it's important to have an extensive amateur career before you become a pro, or do you think it doesn't really matter?
Well, I think it helps that you do, but, I also think that, too many amateur fights isn't good. I happened to start when I was 5, so I was, pretty young when I did it, and then, so it was one of those things where, didn't really think about it at the time, never thought about turning pro or anything, but, I think, nowadays, I think 100 fight plenty for a kid. I would even think 50 would be sufficient to teach them, what they need to learn. And, I feel that, pro fighting is a little easier than amateurs. You can pick your opponents as a pro, and whereas amateur, you're pretty much fighting anybody in your weight class.
Your pro debut, what do you remember about that first professional fight?
Well, I remember that it was a scheduled 10-round fight. I never had a 4-round fight. In my third fight, I went 10 rounds. So I was much more suited for the longer distances as a pro than as an amateur. I mean, and I don't even think you can do that anymore. Now they make you go, 3 or 4 rounders, and then a few sixes, and then a couple eights, and then you're able to move on to 10. So, I don't know that they even allow that anymore, but this is back in the 80s, and, and the commissioner, the state where I turned pro was in Washington. The commissioners pretty much knew that, I was a more, long distance fighter more so than the short distance fighter, so they were good with me going 10 rounds, but I don't think you can do that anymore.
What do you think were your biggest or your best qualities?
I think I was harder to hit than most guys thought I was. I was always right in front of them, but, wasn't always the easiest guy to hit. And, and then, making them pay. And this, you make them pay. And, I think, just the sheer factor of wanting to win every time out was one of my strongest suits. And I will say that looking back on it now, I mean, I never backed down from anybody. I pretty much fought the best fighters out there, and most of the time in their hometown because I needed it for a manager. And but my thing was just fighting. I didn't care who I fought, where I fought, when I fought. I just liked to fight.
And you even fought Freddie Roach. What was he like in the ring? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember sparring him, Johnny Taco's gym, because Johnny was training Freddie and he was training me at the same time. And, I was just physically so much stronger than him, and that was the advantage I had over most of the guys I fought. I was coming down from 155 pounds to fight at 135. So, by the time I got in there to fight, I was so much physically stronger than them guys. I was pushing them around and blowing them, and they're hitting me with their best shot, and I'm walking through it. And, I remember getting that call on 6 days' notice. He was supposed to fight a guy that was from up here, Brett Summers. Brett Summers had just got beat up by Chris Calvin, another guy I fought and I beat. So Brett backed out with 6 days' notice, so they called me up and thought I was going to be out of shape, and I was in the gym and I was ready to go, so I said, sure, I'll take that fight. And I was just physically stronger than him. He couldn't do much with me. I was walking through most of his shots. Like call right, I think I stopped him in the 7th round and pretty much finished his career.
How do you feel when you see him now, seeing him in the shape he's in, but yet seeing him being one of the best trainers in the world?
Well, I don't know. He's one of the best trainers in the world. I think he's just got a couple good fighters. He had a lot more, he had a lot longer time to be a trainer because I retired him. I think I fought him in '85. I don't think he fought much after that. I think he fought 2 or 3 times after that, and he pretty much moved on to training. But, he's all fucked up now, and I don't feel sorry for him. It's a chance you take every time you get in there. Any fight could be your last fight. So, only the strong survive. So it happened to me, he knows that. I know that. It's just a fact of the matter that any fight any time could be your last fight. It's a dangerous sport. It's not healthy to get hit in the head, and he's done well as a trainer, but he wasn't much of a fighter. So I don't know how he's the world's greatest trainer. I think he's just got a couple of decent fighters. He's got Pacquiao, who in my day would have been a top 10 fighter at best. Now he's the best guys out there. My thinking is, he's an average fighter. The only thing he's got going for him is, he's a southpaw. He's got a little bit of speed, but, I think that's one of the reasons he's not fighting Floyd, that Floyd's just as quicker than him. And, if you look at all the guys that he's pretty much fought guys that don't have the speed he does, or more catchers than, So, I think he's doing well, but I don't think he's the world's greatest trainer.
After you beat him, you got a few other wins there, and then you fight Benny Pazienza. What did you think of that fighter going into that fight?
I thought I'd knock him out. I thought I underestimated him a little bit, but going to fight him in his hometown when Camacho and Rosario were the other two champions, they didn't want no part of that. I physically thought I'd knock the guy out. He was tougher than I thought, but there's no doubt in my mind I won that fight. They can tell me all the time. They can tell me 100 guys can tell me I lost the fight. But when you've been in there and I beat him up. I beat him up the first fight. I beat him up the second fight, and he ran the third fight. So, you know, I mean, they can see it how they want it, but I know that the way I look at it is he ran. The third fight, he didn't want to get his nose broke and beat up again, so... You know, and he didn't have the balls to fight me in Vegas like he said he would. You know, I was going to fight him in Providence, his hometown, and if there was any controversy or if he won, then he'd give me a rematch in Vegas. Well, he wouldn't fight me in Vegas, and he ended up fighting me in Atlantic City. Well, you know, and the sports reporters are, well, it's not Providence. Well, what's the difference? 100 miles and 10,000 Dagos. You know, you're only fucking half-hour drive from Providence. So, you know, I still seen it as a hometown deal, and I just got in better shape, was more determined, and I just went out and I just put it on him even more. So
all the judges, I believe, had him winning by just a few points, and you would think if it was that close and he was a hometown favorite, you would think he would have won by a whole lot more than that.
Oh yeah, you know, I don't even know how the fight the judges saw it. But you know, a lot of those judges judge with their ears. You know, he's throwing punches that don't land, and the crowd going crazy, and you know, the judges can only see so much, so they're figuring, hey, maybe that punch landed. You know, and he missed a lot of shots, and he ran into a lot of shots. So you know, I mean, people can tell me I lost that first fight. I say bullshit. I know I didn't lose that first fight. He knows it. You know, and anybody that's ever been in the ring and ever fought knows when you've had your ass kicked and you haven't. So he knows I did. So you know, I mean, I just got in better shape and came back to the next one and got, you know, put it on him even more so they couldn't take it.
Yeah, did he have a lot of pop to his punch, or was he just an average puncher?
No, he's an average guy, but, you know, he was quick, you know. I mean, you know, speed is power, you know. Anytime you got speed, you can translate that into power by throwing combinations, you know. If you got 3 or 4 quick punches in a row, I don't care how hard you hit. You know, if you're hitting a guy on the button 3 times in a row, pop, 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 light punches or heavy punches, there's a good chance you're not going to survive that. So he had fast hands, but he wasn't one of the bigger punchers that I fought.
What was it like going in the ring with Pernell Whitaker?
Well, you know, Pernell was a nightmare. You know, I mean, you know, you got a guy that's a southpaw, a good southpaw, hard to hit. You know, anytime you got a guy like that, it makes for tough fights because of the fact that, you know, the jab usually doesn't work on a good southpaw. It's more right hands, left hooks, and keeping your left foot outside of his right, trying to control him with you know, there's a lot more that goes into it, especially if you're fighting a good, smart southpaw like Whitaker, who's hard to hit. You know, I mean, out of all the guys that I fought, he was best, you know, the best fighter as far as skill and
not only that,
quality.
He's considered to be one of the best, or if not the best, defensive fighter of all time.
You know, and once again, I fought him in his hometown, and you know, it's not something I was happy about. You know, and he outslicked me for 12 rounds. And you know, it's tough to fight a guy like that if you're not in the right frame of mind. I wasn't happy about fighting in his hometown. You know, back to back, just defenses. You know, here I am, always on the road. And I didn't mind fighting on the road. You know, there's nothing better than going out and quieting 10, 20,000 people down and not giving them anything to cheer about. But it's also nice to have that home cooking once in a while, too.
I remember my first fight that I remember really seeing you in was when you went in the ring with Hector Macho Camacho. What do you remember about that fight?
Well, I remember I had sparred him in 1982, I think, in Alaska. When I lived in Alaska, I had just won the lightweight title from a guy up there. And so they came up there because he was moving up. He was a junior lightweight champion at the time, and he was moving up to lightweight. And he ended up fighting John Montez, and so they came up there thinking I was some hillbilly from Alaska, and he was going to, kick my butt. And, we had some sparring sessions scheduled, 3 of them. And, after the first one, he started, dropping bombs on me, and I'm just, hey, what's good for you is good for me. So I ended up blooding his nose and blooding his mouth a little bit, and he knew who I was. And so I reminded him of that in, 90s when I fought him, and, I knew that he was, he liked to fight 1 minute, minute and a half each round, and so my game plan was to go out there and force him to fight 3 minutes of every round. That way by, 5th, 6th, 7th round, he's going to be dead tired because, he's had to fight every second of every round. So that was my goal, was to go out and just press him and make him fight. And I did, and it wore him down, and,
And actually, I believe that was his first loss, wasn't it? Didn't you hand him his first loss?
Yeah, it was, and then we fought a rematch, and I beat him again, but they gave it to him in Reno, and, He was so sure that, like Larry Merchant was saying, well, the only reason you won the title is because you got him to take a point away. Well, it doesn't matter how I won, Larry. Bottom line is I won the second fight just as easy as I won the first fight. But, he was so sure that he lost because they had taken a point away from him again in the second fight that he would end up leaving the ring and walking to his dressing room, and they'd talked him into coming back for the decision. And that was a Dan Duva deal, and, they kind of knew they had it in the bag. So, there's two losses right there that I don't think that I deserve, and, it's one of those things you just got to take the good with the bad. You can't cry about it. People start crying. People think you're a crybaby.
What about your fight with Mancini? I mean, that was a pretty good win there, a knockout in the 7th. A lot of people took away a little of that win. They were saying that Mancini wasn't the same after, what happened with that Dooku Kim incident. And they probably take a little bit away from that. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that?
I don't know that he was at the very top of his game, but I do know that he retired for a couple of years, and then he came back out of retirement, and he fought Camacho to a close fight that a lot of people thought Ray won. So that gave Ray confidence to think that he was going to beat me. I don't take anything away from that. I mean, Ray, any guy that gets in there's, got the chance of winning or the chance of losing. I mean, so I don't buy into that stuff. He's over the hill. He's past his prime. He's not the same fighter. I mean, who really knows that? So, I know I won the fight. I know maybe Ray wasn't at the very tip top of his game, but he was still a good fighter,
So now let me ask you about, to me, the main event of all questions here. You get the news here, you're going to fight for the WBC light welterweight title against Julio Cesar Chavez. What do you remember about getting that call that you were going to be fighting him and in Mexico?
Well, originally the fight was scheduled to take place in Las Vegas, and Don King had it moved to Azteca Stadium. Don said a lot of things that I had said, was talking a lot of smack, saying a lot of stuff about Chavez. I hated Mexicans. I didn't like sticks, and that's not true at all. I mean, the only thing I ever said was, the guy asked me, well, aren't you scared to death of Chavez? And I said, no, he's a man just like I am. He's fucking 88 but he's fought a lot of Tijuana cab drivers, but that was really the only thing I said about it. But Don had said a lot of derogatory things that I had said about Chavez, so it pumped the fight up and, had the Mexican crowd into a frenzy wanting to, kill me.
I remember that, and I remember how, us being Hispanic and stuff, we all gathered at all Chavez fights. This one was a little more different because he had said something about the taxi drivers or whatnot.
Well, no, it was just, the way I thought. I wasn't scared of him. I didn't think he was, that much better than me, but at the time, I was going through an ugly divorce. I mean, unless you're 110% fighting a guy like that, it's going to show, and it showed early. And, it's one of those things where, I look back on it now, that's really the only regret of anything that I got, that I didn't train like I should have and could have for that fight, because of the fact that, what was going on at the time. So, he's a great fighter. I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from him. I wasn't scared or nothing, but I mean, when I went in the fight, thinking I was going to win it, and it didn't work out. But, it was a good experience, and, there's a couple things I'd change about it, but, that's about it. I mean, I fought anybody and everybody whenever they,
Knowing that you were going to be going in this main event against the guy that's still considered the best, one of the best athletes ever out of Mexico, number one in boxing, and knowing you're going to be in the main event and in front of the biggest crowd in the history of boxing, or probably of any event. I mean, knowing that and having said what you said and walking into Mexico, how did the people receive you?
They didn't receive me very well. They didn't like me. They were throwing stuff at me, going in the ring. I had death threats. It was a hostile environment. I mean, I've been in a lot of hostile environments in Providence and Norfolk, and nothing like that though. I mean, it was Chavez was a god. He was like Elvis there. I mean, there's not a lot to get excited about in Mexico. I mean, you got athletes, and that's about it, and that in soccer. So, I just stated that I wasn't afraid, and, and they took it the wrong way. But there was a lot of ugliness in that fight. It just, leading up to it with what Don had said. And so, but you can't take that back.
Walking in the ring that day, going to the ring, was there anything like, stuff thrown at you or your people?
Oh yeah, they were throwing cups of piss on us. They were throwing pesos from the third level. They were throwing bags of shit at us. They were trying to stick us with Mexican flags that that were on little wooden sticks. They were trying to stick us. Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. It was about a 300-yard walk from the dressing room to the ring, and they just pelted us with everything. It was ugly.
And after the fight was over, it seemed like Chavez gave a lot of respect to you. What do you think of? What did you think of him there after the fight?
Well, I respected him. I didn't never had nothing really bad to say to him before or after. I mean, he is a good fighter. I mean, you can't take it away from him. I don't care if you're fighting your sister 90 times; she's going to win a few of them. So he was a great fighter. He's one of the better fighters that I had fought. But I firmly believe that Whitaker was a much better fighter as far as skill, and and I held my own with him. So I should have been able to hold my own with him, but. Not being in shape and not fucking training for the fight, leaving me, him dropping me in the first punch he hits me with, and I never really recovered from it after that. My legs are gone. And, you have to be in tip-top shape to fight a guy like that. If you're not, it's going to show.
Which ones did you feel were the best fights thereafter?
Well, that was pretty much the last big one that I had, and I fought a few more times after that, but, I was on my way down. I mean, you're 32, 33 years old. You start hitting, that's considered old in boxing. So, I could have hung around longer and could have fought more, but, I'm going 10, 12 rounds with guys I should be knocking out. It's time to tell me it's time to get out of it. It's not for everybody. And it's not a fight, not a sport you can be mediocre at. If you are, you're going to get hurt.
Why do you think, how you said 33 is about like you're considered old as a fighter, but yet that's about the age where our best fighters are at right now? Why do you think that is, and it's just like flip-flop from then to now?
It's the lighter weights. I mean, you can go longer in the heavyweight, but, it's one of those things where the lighter weights, there's more action and, there's more wear and tear on your body. So I think, at 33, 34, you start seeing your skills slip, and, you're not the fighter that you used to be, and, 35 is definitely old for a guy that's, in the lighter weights. A guy could fight up till he's 45 if he's a heavyweight, because there's not as much work or not as much action going on.
What do you think about same-day weigh-ins to now how they weigh the day before? What do you think of that, and does that affect boxers?
Well, I think it affects boxers. I mean, it all depends on, if you're the champion or not. If you're the champion, you get to decide that, the weigh-ins the 24 hours before or the morning of. I'd always go the morning of because they couldn't rehydrate and couldn't recover as quick.
And if there's anything you can change about your career, someone maybe you could have fought that you didn't, or the other way around, you fought but you shouldn't have. Is there any changes like that you would make?
Well, there's really only one regret, and that's, the Chavez fight, not being in a lot better condition than I was, and, representing America, it was basically Mexico against, America, and that's really the only thing, that I really, have second guesses in myself over is the fact that, I wasn't in the condition I wanted to be in to fight a guy like that. And, going through a divorce, and, you got to mind, got to be 110% when you're fighting a guy like him. If not, I will show. Well, I mean, there's no question that I could have, been a bigger star, and if I would have had a good manager and somebody that knew what the hell they were doing, I could have been making a lot more money like Ray was, fighting on TV every fight, and being the golden boy, being the token white kid that, it's getting, the little easier fights, but, I didn't have that, so I had to deal with what I had, and I was for a manager, and, and you learn that way, I mean, but, I can't, everybody's got 20/20, hindsight, so, I just take the good with the bad and move on.
And if you were to tell your fans, what would you tell them?
Well, I just appreciate all of them. I mean, if it wasn't for me having fans and, people liking me the way wanting to see me fight, then I would have never made no money. I would have been stuck fighting in a little shack that nobody ever seen me. So, you know, it's the fans that keep the sport going. So, you know, it's one of those things where I respect all of them. I appreciate all of them, and you know, that's really about the only thing I miss about the sport is, you know, the chance to go out there and get to please the fans, and you know, and show them your skill.
Are you involved in boxing in any way at the moment?
Yeah, I am. I got a couple kids I'm working with right now. I got a kid getting ready to go to Florida to work with. Justin Jones. He's I don't know. He'll probably be fighting lightweight. He's 2-0. Tough little white boy. Got some skill, but you know, we're gonna have to teach him, you know, skills. But and then I'm working with some amateur kids up here. I'm getting ready to go to work for the city of Seattle and work with at-risk youth kids that are being locked up, or they're locked up right now, and we're getting them unlocked up. So come work out and give them a chance to stay out of trouble.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for doing this, and especially on your daughter's birthday. You know, I very much appreciate that.
Not a problem, man.